Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gary gzduels, and you're watching the deck profile of my Malefic Skill Drain deck for the September 2013 format. I really like this deck because this deck is really good against the meta, against cool decks like 4-axis Fire Fist, against cool stun decks like TG Stun that try to utilize Skill Drain themselves. Against Constellars like a very techy deck, against even Evil Swarms that can do stuff against them as well. So without further ado, let me get into the deck profile. For the monsters, we have 2 Ancient Gear Gadgetron Dragons, 1 Machina Cannon, 3 Machina Fortress, 3 Machina Gear Frame, 3 Cyber End Dragons, Malefic Cyber End Dragons, 3 Planet Pathfinder, 1 Swift Scarecrow. I'll talk about all the tech cards that I think are important, so bear with me. For spells, we have Book of Moon, Close Forest, which is a tech card, 1 Dark Hole, 3 Forbidden Lands, 3 Gear Towns, 1 Limited Removal, 3 Mystical Space Typhoon, 2 Necro Valley only, 2 Night Beams, 3 Terraforming, and 1 Seal of Orichalcos, 3 Skill Drains for the traps. For the extra deck, we have 3 Cyber End Dragons, 2 Stardust Dragons, 1 Diamond Dire Wolf, 1 Gaga Cowboy, 1 Gaia Dragon Thunder Charger, 1 Gemini Pearl, 1 Maze Stroke, 1 Draco Sack, 1 Big Eye, 1 Utopia, 1 Black Strip of Corn, and 1 Utopia Ray. For a side deck, we have 2 Malefic Stardust Dragons, 2 Maxies, 2 Swift Scarecrow, 1 Night Beam, 2 Deck Devastation Virus, 1 Eradicator Epidemic Virus, 2 Light Imprisoning Mirrors, 2 Shadow Imprisoning Mirrors, and 1 Soul Drain. Okay, I want to first talk about what this deck is good against and what this deck loses to. This deck wins against decks that try to play control. Because what I mean by control is decks that try to play Skill Drain, that's pretty much control. Decks that try to play, they try to play back row, very heavy back row. This deck has a really favorable matchup against them because, look, we have 3 Forbidden Lands main deck, 3 Mystical Space Typhoons main deck, and we also have 2 Night Beams main deck. For the side deck, we have a 3rd Night Beam to deal with them, and we also have a Eradicator Epidemic Virus to deal with that as well, because if they try to, bottomless something like Cyber End Dragon, we can throw in the Eradicator Epidemic Virus, call traps, all of the traps get destroyed. Next turn, you're free to do whatever you want, and you have control of your opponent's hand. So this deck has a really good favorable matchup against decks with heavy back row for some reason. Also, this deck has really good favorable matchup against decks that use monster effects a lot, that depend on monster effects a lot, and without monster effects, their deck cannot do anything. So what I mean are like, Madolches. If Madolches get their effects taken away, on the field, you can't special summon Hoot Cake, you can't use Hoot Cake's effect to special summon, you can't use Mageline to search, the deck is pretty much dead. So if that happens, you can do stuff to them. You can also do stuff to decks that depend on monster effects to facilitate more powerful plays. So like Constellars, if you shut down the effect of Cost, if you shut down the effect of, Caster, they can't do anything. If you have Skill Drain Flip Bomb on the field, your opponent summons Caster, they cannot normal summon again. You can take away their effects like Sombre. You can take away their effects like Algady. You'll shut down entire decks. You'll shut down the entire Fire Fist deck because they depend on their monster effects to remove monsters, remove spell and traps, So you'll have a really good matchup against those decks. Now, what the deck loses to are OTK decks that are unexpected. So, you can have something like a Gear Frame on the field. All of a sudden, your opponent special summons Tefnuit, Heraldic Dragon Tefnuit, special summons Sue, uses Sue's effect, tributes whatever, and summon like Watt-tailed Dragon, go for a Tomb. Now, in that instance, if you didn't have Skill Drain, if you didn't have something like Book of Moon, you're pretty much going to get OTK'd because you don't have much protection. So for that reason, we play Swift Scarecrow. Well, that's one of the reasons why we play Swift Scarecrow, is to prevent yourself from being OTK'd, hopefully. You do have a lot of disrupting plays. You have Skill Drain to disrupt, combos. You have Necro Valley to disrupt combos that move cards from the graveyard. You have also Book of Moon to break up, XYZ plays and also Synchro plays. So, there is a deterrence. There is a thing built in to try to prevent that. But also at the same time, Heretics, they can go off if you don't have Skill Drain. Karakuri, they can go off if you don't have Skill Drain, so that can get pretty scary. So that one Swift Scarecrow really helps. And Swift Scarecrow also helps because it's a machine level 1. And if you don't want to use Swift Scarecrow, it's not dead, because if you have a Fortress in your hand, you can discard Fortress, which is level 7. You can discard Swift Scarecrow, which is level 1. Together, you'll have level 8, and you can special summon out the Machina Fortress that you just discarded. So it's not dead. It can be used as a cost in order to summon Fortress. So that's pretty good. For Planet Pathfinder is another tech card that I decided to use over Card D. The reason why I use Planet Pathfinder is so numerous. Planet Pathfinder can get you into any of these, really good field cards. If you wanted a Necro Valley really quickly and you didn't have something like Terraforming, you can totally just get that Necro Valley and lock down your opponent. If you wanted Closed 4, which is another good card I'll talk about, you can get that. If you wanted more Gear Towns to special summon out Gadgetron Dragon, you can do that. So sometimes in your opening hand, you might have something like Necro Valley, and you might have something like Planet Pathfinder. It's totally fine. You normal summon Planet Pathfinder, tribute itself, get yourself a Gear Town, play the Necro Valley on top of Gear Town face down. Gear Town gets destroyed, special summon out Gadgetron Dragon. You didn't waste any of your normal summons, so it's pretty good. Planet Pathfinder is also a level 4 machine monster. You can totally discard this and Fortress to special summon Fortress. Heck, you can even discard 2 of these, 2 Planet Pathfinders in order to summon out Fortress if you wanted. Also, Planet Pathfinder serves another cool function, even under skill drain. Since its effect is a tribute effect. You tribute this card, add 1 field card from your deck to your hand. It resolves into the graveyard or off the field, so skill drain will not negate the effect, unlike Card D. And you can use Planet Pathfinder's effect to search for whatever you want anyways. So Planet Pathfinder, definitely a good card. Okay, the other tech card I want to talk about is Closed Forest. Closed Forest, I know some of you guys might think it's random. All beast type monsters you control gain 100 attack for each monster in your graveyard. What the heck is that, Gary? Are you playing Beast Stun? No, I'm not playing Beast Stun. But what's really cool about this card is the second effect. Field spell cards cannot be activated while this card is face up on the field. So if your opponent depends on their field cards, like, I don't know, Dragunities, they need the Dragon Ravine to move the deck, well then if you play Closed Forest and can't play that card easily, they would have to destroy it. But wait, look at what Closed Forest does also. Look, this, hold on, let me find it. Field spell cards cannot be activated to turn this card is destroyed. So even if they destroy your field card, they have to wait a turn in order to play their own field card. So it's built-in defense against decks that play good field cards. Some of you may be wondering, well, what decks is that? Well, Dragunities depend on their Ravine. Spellbooks depend on their Spellbook Tower to net advantage. Dark Worlds need their field card in order to run the deck. So, field spells are actually really important in this format. So 1 Closed Forest is good enough because you have 3 Planet Pathfinders and 3 Terraformings to search it out. So that's 6 copies of Closed Forest. So that's why Closed Forest is good, and that's why Closed Forest is at 1. The Necro Valley I put to 2 is because you can search it out so easily, and I put it to 2 because not 1, because you sometimes need multiple Necro Valleys if your opponent gets smart and tries to destroy them. It's not like these other 2 field cards like Closed Forest and Orichalcos that has inherent defense. Closed Forest can be prevented from prevent being destroyed by another field card. Seal of Orichalcos can prevent itself from being destroyed by another card effect once per turn. So Necro Valley should be at 2 because it doesn't have any inherent protection. It's just a good field card. So yeah, with that said, the last thing I want to say about the main deck is why I don't run any traps. The reason why I see people run traps is they want to remove monsters from the field. Seriously, think about it. If you summon a big monster, your opponent bottomless, all that does is remove that monster. But if your monsters are like these Malefic monsters, are like these Gadgetron dragons, are these fortresses, you don't really care about monster removal because you can just attack over the monster itself. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, what if their monsters use effects? What if it's a rescue rabbit? What if it's a thing that gets them advantage really quickly? Well, what if they're effect monsters? We have skill drain. If you have skill drain, sure, you can leave your rabbit on the field. Your rabbit cannot do anything in order to get advantage for you if I have skill drain. You can't use anything to slow it down. Now you have the rabbit on the field. I can special summon my Malefic Siren Dragon and punch you in the face for 3,000 something damage. We don't need traps because mainly, you have things to disrupt their plays. You have things to make their monsters vulnerable, so there's no need for traps. All we need is back row hate. Okay, so for the slide deck, the reason why I don't main Malefic Stardust Dragon is because it doesn't have synergy with the machine aspect. It's also a level 8, it's not a level 7. And also, you know, I only throw this in if I need extra monsters. If I'm facing a deck that doesn't have a lot of back row, like, you know, Chaos Dragons or whatever, I might just throw those things in replace of Night Beam and all of that stuff. And I might throw in these viruses for extra virus targets. I might throw in these Stardust Dragons. And I have these 2 Max Cs and these other 2 Swift Scarecrows because, like I said, the deck loses to OTKs, unexpected OTKs. So if you have Max C to prevent yourself from doing that, and you have Swift Scarecrow to save yourself, next turn you can go into some fantastic plays. You can special summon out, you know, Malefic Cyber Dragon. You can beat over their monsters. You can remove their monsters by effect, by Fortress. So it's pretty good. Okay, third Night Beam to deal with back row heavy decks. Deck Devastation Virus, no need to be said about this. This card is just good. Eradicator Epidemic Virus is only at 1, so I'll play 1. Light Imprisoning Mirror is just added protection for if you don't draw Skill Drain and your opponent plays Constellars, or if your opponent plays Thunder Family, you know, this really comes in handy. Also, Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, it shuts off things like Inzectors, it shuts off things like Dark Worlds, so it really helps as well. And Soul Drain. Soul Drain is at 1, but I think it's still worth it to play. You can still stop things like Dragon Rulers, that Dragon Ruler plant stuff. You can still shut off things like Mermails, which will be really prevalent. You can shut off things like Dark Worlds. You know, Skill Drain. Skill Drain cannot hurt Dark Worlds in the graveyard, in the field. So what you would do against Dark World would be if you just sub out the 3 Skill Drains and you throw in the 2 Shadow Imprisoning Mirror and the Soul Drain, and you'll be set, all set. So yeah, tell me what you guys think about this deck. If you have any suggestions, feel free to suggest it in the comment section down below. But this is my interpretation of Malefic Skill Drain for the September 2013 format. Hope you guys enjoyed it. This is Gary GZ Duels signing out.